Hello everybody, welcome back to Armchair Bikers TV. It's the Bearded Stick coming at you with another Rebel 1100 video. If you haven't seen our last Rebel 1100 video, go check that one out. It might make this one make more sense. But to do a quick little recap, we're basically doing a scrambler style build on this Rebel 1100. So as you see, currently we do have knobby tires. We got Burley brand shocks, which is going to give us more suspension travel in the rear. We got wider off-road style foot pegs. We're currently running no front fender because the front knobby doesn't clear the front fender, so we had to remove it. And then today, we're actually installing a skid plate. Believe it or not, there is a company that makes a skid plate for this bike, even though it is a street bike. But in my mind, that just means it was meant to be a scrambler. Obviously, if they designed a skid plate for it, it must be destined to be a scrambler. So I don't want to hear anybody in the comments saying that this bike's not off-road worthy. If we got knobby tires, we got a skid plate, and we got the same engine as the Africa Twin, I mean, come on. What does that tell you? It's meant for the dirt. So today we're going to be installing that skid plate, and we're going to be taking you along with us. Got it here behind me. Look at that big full coverage skid plate. Oh yeah. And as a bonus, we have some grips to install. So all that and more coming up. Alright guys, so here's how the skid plate came packaged very well. See, we got a ton of bubble wrap, a ton of cardboard, packaged very well, and all the mounting brackets came neatly packaged in this plastic bag with the instruction manual, which we might need. And of course, the true measure of any company is whether or not they send you free stickers, and guess what? We got free stickers, so it's a pass in my book. So yeah, T-Rex Racing, never actually heard of this company until I started looking around for Rebel 1100 parts. Now, of course, they do make other parts for other bikes, but as far as the Rebel 1100 goes, they do have a pretty wide selection of various parts, so check them out. I was pretty pleased with them. They fulfilled my order pretty quick. It arrived on time, came packaged well, and so far the quality of everything seems to be pretty good. Now, these grips I got off of Revzilla. I guess they're made by Colt, but they're licensed by Vans, and if you notice, they are the same pattern as like the bottom of a Van skate shoe, which actually I'm wearing right now. Look at that. So there's my shoe, and there's the grip. Oh, looks familiar, doesn't it? So kind of cool. See if we can get those installed. Those are probably going to be more difficult than the skid plate, but yeah, let's get into it. All right, here's the skid plate out of the packaging. First impressions, pretty beefy, pretty good quality as well. Pretty decent looking welds on here. And I mean, I'm not a welder, but they look good to me. And look at this removable panel, so that way you can still access both of your drain plugs as well as your oil filter, so you don't have to take the entire skid plate off when you do an oil change, which is awesome. And then we got a little bit of T-Rex Racing branding on the side. But hey, as you can see, very big, very beefy, full coverage skid plate. It's going to give us great coverage for our oil filter, header pipe, oil pan. Really, I don't think there's anything we're going to be able to hit on this bike after installing this, so that's cool. Here is a quick little preview of the instruction manual. So you can see the hardware included is really just for the 4 brackets, so it should be pretty easy. A little preview of what it's going to look like on the bike, but nice that they give you instructions. And also nice that they divide out the hardware as you see right there. So let's dive into it and see how quickly we can get this done. All right, so we got the brackets mocked up here. Pretty easy to follow instructions, just a few brackets, a few bolts, and a few spacers, that's it. One cool note though is that 4mm aluminum is what the skid plate's made out of. I did forget to mention that. And everything's TIG welded as well, so pretty cool. But I'm gonna get this underneath the bike, get it mocked up and then get everything tightened down, and it looks like this is going to be pretty easy. All right, so we're going to be removing this bolt here and then this bolt down here at the bottom of the foot peg bracket. That is a 14 millimeter, by the way, 14 millimeter up here. All right, so I think this is an 8 millimeter, but then 5/16 American size also seems to fit pretty snug in here. So if it works, it works. Ew. After removing this nut on here, there's actually a big, long bolt that goes all the way through the bike. So as you can see, here it is. So when you pull this out, you got these spacers on either side. So these spacers are in between here. So when you take the bolt out, you're gonna obviously remove both these spacers on both sides, fully remove the bolt, and then you're going to use the spacers that are provided by T-Rex Racing. So, all right, so this might be a little difficult to see, but on this side, as you can see, we have one spacer on this side, we have the actual mounting bracket in between, and then we have another spacer on this side. So again, if you look at the instructions, there's your bracket, you got the 10 millimeter spacer, then you have the bracket, then you have the 31 millimeter spacer, and then you got to get the bolt through all that. So it's a little tricky to do alone, but as you can see, again, 10 millimeter spacer, mounting bracket, and then the 31 millimeter spacer there. So I'm gonna just keep this here, and then I'm gonna get the other side of the skid plate lifted up. And once we do that, the front will be semi-mounted, and then we can work on the rear. All right, so this is the left side of the bike. As you can see, we have our spacer here, and then here's the mounting bracket on the inside of this. So the width of the mounting bracket plus the width of the spacer equals the length of the old factory spacer, so don't be alarmed when you realize that this spacer is shorter than factory. It's designed that way because obviously you need to accommodate for the width of the skid plate bracket. So this is loosely tightened down now with the nut, so I still have to get the back of the skid plate attached, and then we will check back in. All right, next part of the install is to just mount this up here. You really got to make sure that you keep all the bolts very, very loose before you get everything tightened up, because if you start to tighten up the front bolts, you're not going to be able to get this to line up. So keep everything very, very loose until you have everything in, everything adjusted properly. These are kind of slotted in an oval shape to give you a little bit of adjustability to make sure that you're not rubbing up on the exhaust pipe or any other part of the bike. So keep everything loose till the very end. But yeah, I'll check back in once we get the last two bolts in and get it adjusted. Okay, again, a little hard to see, but right in here is the spacer. As you can see, there's our new hardware. So yeah, if you look at your instructions, you just got your bolts and your spacer, so that one's pretty easy. There's no bracket on this side, there's only the brackets here. So on this side, the bracket is actually gonna go through your foot peg mount here, so just make sure you got that correct. And then it bends down here, and you have your spacer that goes in between the bracket and the frame of the bike, and then your hardware there. So again, matches the instructions pretty well. See, goes through there, goes through the foot peg, and then your spacers on the inside with your bolt going through. And of course, don't forget your washers on all these bolts. So we got the skid plate loosely installed. Now we're gonna go around, tighten all the hardware, make sure that none of the brackets are rubbing up against anything, make sure everything is snug, and then of course, don't forget to tighten your big long bolt that goes through here. The instructions just recommend torquing that to the manufacturer's spec. I don't actually know what that spec is, so I'm just gonna do the old good and tight torque spec, and yeah, we should be good. So I'll check back in once everything is tight. and then leave you with my final thoughts. All right, everybody, and here we have it. The T-Rex Racing skid plate fully torqued down, fully tight. So the first thing I did was tighten this big long bolt that goes through the frame, torqued that down, and then I went ahead and went around and torqued each mounting bracket to make sure that everything was aligned properly, no clearance issues. So as you see on this side, making sure there's no clearance issues with the header pipe. There isn't, so we're good there. Moving to the back, torque this down. I really don't have to worry about any clearance issues back here. This one's pretty easy. So we move around to the other side of the bike. Just want to make sure back here that there's no clearance issues with the bracket and the foot peg mount. So I got that nice and tight, and as you can see, I can put my finger in there, so no clearance issues there either. And then finally, last but not least, I was worried about this rubbing up against this little O2 sensor guard, but I got it in a good position to where it is not rubbing the O2 sensor guard or the header pipe, so that is good as well. Got this torqued down to good and tight spec, probably a little tighter than it was from the factory, but oh well, it'll do. So overall, install was pretty easy. Everything went pretty smoothly, pretty self-explanatory. You just want to take your time and make sure that everything is aligned properly, nothing's rubbing, and when you go around, you just want to make sure that you're torquing everything properly, so that way you got no rattles, creaks, or squeaks. But other than that, she's ready to rip, baby. So I'm gonna get the grips on, and then we're done. All right, so I know I said I was gonna put the grips on, but I'm really not sure if I like the color on this. I don't know, let me know. I thought these were gonna be darker. These are the gum color. Let me see. Yeah, these are the gum colors you see right there. So, I don't know. I thought they were gonna be darker, so I might reorder a different color, but I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Does this color go with the tank or not? All right, so there you have it. Installation of the T-Rex Racing skid plate. Looks really good, looks really quality. Very happy with it so far. Of course, we got to test it out on some off-road trails, which is coming soon in the next videos. Again, as I said, I'm probably gonna just order some different color grips. I'm not really too happy with the color of these, or at least I just don't think they match. I thought they were gonna be darker, but oh well. So I'm gonna reorder a different color, do that at a later date. But at least we got the skid plate installed, so we're ready to take this thing off-road. Don't have to worry about the oil filter getting a rock through it. So yeah, stay tuned for more videos to come on this bike. There are more installations coming down the pipeline as well. There's a few more things I want to do to this, including probably the next project is going to be the headlight, but we'll see. So thank you for watching, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.